All right, this is Group 1, Stacy Futrell, Allison Wallace, Matthew Ramsey, and Carla McCain. We are here meeting about our curriculum interview. Last week we met and come up with questions to ask for our curriculum interview. And so we'll start with the first question that we had discussed. And I thought about us just asking the question and we kind of each talk about what our curriculum person said. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Number 1, are teachers using the curriculum to guide decisions about instruction and assessment?
So during my interview, she said, yes, each theme and big idea needs to be based on the standards. And so what we do is we take our standards and we use mastery-based grading and standards-based learning. So we take our state standards and rewrite them into learning goals and learning targets, and then develop into units based around like themes and big ideas, and we do all of that based on our standards.
The curriculum specialist that I talked with, she said that, like, as far as our teachers, they're not using the curriculum to guide their decisions. So, for example, she said that if a teacher has to teach figurative language, they're not looking at what we call unpacking documents and finding new ways to teach figurative language. They're not looking how it is assessed on the EOGs. Like more of the veteran teachers, they're not finding those new ways to teach the curriculum, and the test scores are not changing because our teachers are not changing the way they teach. And with today's society, you know that we have to change the way we teach to accommodate the learning styles of all the different students.
When I talked to the curriculum specialist, one of them for Gifford County Schools, since they have adopted a new reading program, everything is already laid out for them based upon the standards. Only thing they literally have to do is make copies and use the script that's in the book. So they really don't have to go and search for anything unless it's even down to the anchor charts. All of that, the suggested anchor charts and everything for them to use to help drive the curriculum is already given. But it's in regards to math, are having to go and find the resources based upon the standards. Teachers are given a guide to use along with a post-assessment in which they could go and look at the post-assessment, then find what resources and all they need to drive the curriculum. So that's how most teachers are expected to do it.
All right. Our county basically has developed curriculum maps that each subject matter follows. And these curriculum maps have built-in benchmark assessments, which we take 3 times a year to kind of guide where we should be during that time of year. Also, we talked about mastering those standards. Some of those standards are supposed to be mastered at a specific time, but we also are human, so some of those standards we look at being year-long standards rather than just that quarter standard.
All righty. Anybody want to add anything else with number 1?
I think it's really interesting, like how we got 4 different perspectives on that. Whereas, like, we just kind of teach, our standards, and the teachers decide. Carla's school, they kind of give you her county,
Mm-hmm.
county gives you everything. I think that's really interesting, that difference.
And seeing
also, I apologize for my dogs barking a minute ago.
Well, Carla, you were saying that for the county, is that everybody, all your general ed teachers?
That's all the general ed teachers. We started the new reading program this year, so I think grades 4th through 9th started this year. And then next year they'll add K through 3, and then the following year it'll be all grade levels will be doing that for reading. And so we're actually trying to see how that's going to affect the ELG, because there's really, at least for the grade levels that have started, there's really nothing that goes along with the standards that are on the ELG. It's with the question stems. I mean, that's the part they're looking at. There's nothing that really goes with the question stems. It is very reading and writing intense, but they're just looking to see how it's going to go along with testing.
Yeah, that should be interesting, especially it being a scripted kind of program.
It is very scripted.
And it kind of sounds like, because in EC, we have scripted program, or in our county, we have scripted programs that we teach, and you have to kind of read right from that, and it's kind of based on that grade level, working. But I just think that's very interesting that they're doing it kind of across the board, because we kind of have it K-5 right now, not all the way to through 12th grade. So it's very interesting. Number 2, how does the budget come into play when choosing a curriculum?
So my curriculum specialist said you don't have a choice on the curriculum that you teach. And really, the students kind of dictate what is taught based on their learning styles and their learning abilities, but you do have a choice in kind of how you choose to deliver that curriculum that you're required by the state to teach. And that's where budget really comes into play and plays a large role in what you can have. And so if a teacher does want to venture out and kind of try a new curriculum, it's really expensive. And so this is where your school improvement plan and your school improvement team is going to kind of come into play to make those decisions.
For us, as far as district-wise, they look at the data, which is why we adopted this big reading program that was millions of dollars. They adopted that, and a couple of years last year they adopted foundations to help with phonics and all that, another pretty much scripted program. So our county believes in that a lot. They will invest in it. Now, as far as school-wise, with us being a Montessori school, it goes a little bit different for us because we're Montessori, so we are expected to use that curriculum as well. However, we don't have all the funding to fully implement the Montessori curriculum, which again, they allot us a certain amount of money, but the money is not always used for those Montessori materials and training.
That's really interesting to me that they do that they expect you to implement the Montessori curriculum, but they're not going to provide you the financial ability to do that.
Yeah, I was in the last cohort in 2008 to receive training. So any teachers who were hired after 2008 have not been trained in Montessori whatsoever. And it has had an effect on the program. There's not but so much we can do because training starts at about $67,000 a person.
Gosh. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is.
Well, and like at the early college, we were partnered with North Carolina New Schools, and they would provide all of our training and stuff, and they've actually shut down. And so our teachers, our brand new teachers this year are facing the same thing, Carla. They have not been trained, and you can tell in just 10, 12 weeks that they're not trained, and it's going to continue to have implications, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
All right. As far as budget, go ahead, Matthew.
I was just going to say that, kind of like Allison, the state kind of mandates what we teach for that curriculum. But when I talked to her about, budget, talking about textbooks, external sources that you can purchase. The budget really has been cut since 2008. Less and less funding has taken place. A lot of people say that you can get just as many online sources and buy a big textbook. But last year was the first year that we got new textbooks in it seems like 12 years. So, but a lot of the new textbooks do come with so much supplemental material, and they have contracts where they work for like 5 years. So they'll be able to replenish that supply of books because of the contract they have with the textbook companies. But again, how do you know what to purchase? There's so many things out there. Deciding on what to do is usually like a group decision based upon the grade level specific, the subject specific kind of book you're looking at.
Okay. As far as the budget, when choosing a curriculum for our county, the teachers actually they'll go and kind of get a overview of the program from a representative from the company, and they'll say, okay, well, we want to try it, kind of like a trial run, and one teacher per school and different grade levels, they're able to try the program and test it out, and then they'll come back and kind of present it to the superintendent, assistant superintendent, the curriculum specialist people, and they'll give their input on the program. But as far as having the final say so and the budget process and all that kind of stuff, our superintendent and assistant superintendent, they have the final say in that department. All right. Anybody got anything else for number 2? Okay. Number 3, data is a large part of determining student and teacher success. Explain your involvement, if any, in data collection and curriculum development.
So we just kind of talked about utilizing EVOS data, EOC scores, NC final exams, ACT, and things like that in order to assist with teacher placement and targeting specific weaknesses as a school or as a grade level. So we're consistently not doing very well, or we could improve, I guess you could say, on the ACT. And so we're looking specifically, we're struggling with science and those texts. So what can we do as a school to improve that area of weakness? And also, my principal looks at EVOS data, and she looks to see what teachers are good with the high students and what teachers are good with the middle and what teachers are good with the low. And she kind of moves them around based on that performance data.
Okay.
So she moves the teachers around based upon that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our principal does that too, which is why I've taught everything there except for 4th grade. This year has been the biggest challenge for me because some of these students really haven't had grade level instruction since 2nd grade because teachers leaving in the middle of the year and just incredibly high teacher turnover rate. But pretty much just going back to the curriculum specialists, they use the EVOS data that shows TRC, end of grade testing scores. And although our district is really focused on reading, we are focused on everything at this point. For last year, for example, we almost went down another grade level. So when we used to be a grade that's a B, almost at the point of an A, we just barely made that C. And, it's really not looking that great again this year. But again, they look at all of the data to determine which programs to buy, teacher placement, principal placement. She told me they pretty much they're driven by that data. And this year we have a new superintendent over the county, so she's created these initiative teams to look at all of the data, all of the numbers, and I guess we're just going to go through a complete overhaul.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we actually just got a new superintendent. He started November 1st, so I'm anxious to see, speaking like Carla, your new super, I'm anxious to see if he makes changes like that as well.
Well, when I talk to our curriculum person, she's got a different perspective on things because she looks at overall data. And what she told me was, she tries to find schools that are similar to our demographics, our population, and then compares us to them and see where they're having their strengths and their weaknesses, and see if we basically kind of line up with them. And then once we see that, those are kind of our targets for the year. Because I know it's like in our county, we used to compare middle school to middle school, but the demographics are so different from each middle school that you can't really compare those things very well. And then, the second thing is like you guys said, you see the EVOS data about growth, their growth index. Are they are teachers in the red and the green and the blue? And you take some of those teachers that are in the blue and you look and see, what kind of instructional strategy are they using to kind of share with the rest of the county or the rest of the school or the rest of whoever, to kind of see if they can implement those things in their classroom to help them be more successful.
And the curriculum specialist I talked with, as far as her involvement in the data collection, she provides like the place for them to upload their data, and the training to help them get the data collection. We just I think it was last year or the year before, we started MTSS. So the first Monday in every month, we have our MTSS meetings, and that's where the teachers come and bring their data based on their struggle, the ones that are struggling, and then they have to do IPs and all that kind of stuff for those. But that data is brought to the meetings to discuss strategies to help the struggling learners. And then there's SMART goals for that the teachers make for those groups, so they can create based on the data that they collected. So kind of our teachers are the ones that they determine how to teach from looking at their data. She just provides the training on how to get the data and provide the place for them to upload it, because our county is starting to look at our MTSS data. So we have like a folder on Google Drive, and every teacher kind of has one, and they upload the struggling learners. And our county has been looking at that and making sure that we're doing, making sure we're collecting the data and for our struggling learners. So that's something new that I've just recently kind of learned, because with EC, they're already struggling, and so it's new for me to learn some of the paperwork.
Right. You already collect so much data with your EC kids, but the struggling learners is kind of the new one, isn't it?
Yes. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have to do IPs, which used to be called like PEPs, on the
Right.
3 lowest kids in their classroom. They used to be last year, if they had it didn't matter if they had an IEP, they still had to do an IP. And I think they had to do all the kids that might have been in red and dibbles, or that were not that they had that were struggling. But now I think they're having to do just 3 of them. So it is getting better once we've kind of figured out, which ones to do. And they might have they might do more than 3. It just depends on the needs of the students. All right. Number 4 says, what are the methods you will use to keep yourself and this board current on important matters?
So we just kind of talked about reading research methods and staying abreast of like the latest research-based methods. In addition to that, this year our school has partnered with ASCD for the first time. Because like I said earlier, New Schools has closed down. And so we partnered with them and potentially other professional organizations in the future just to kind of learn and participate in professional development that's continually happening around the nation and around the world.
As I had mentioned before, everything is sort of up in the air since we have new leadership. And like I stated, they have these initiative teams that they are using, but it is the plan, or they're hoping to continue with what they have going, because we do have, some strong programs. We have that big Say Yes initiative that we got and all of that, but they are, our county is known for adopting, a program that they hear that is really good. So, it pretty much we'll see what happens at this point.
I've, talked about them. They said that one of the lady I talked to, she has a lot of experience with this, like most curriculum people do. And basically, she just, like I said, keeps, paying attention to the educational literature out there. Make sure that she knows what's going on. Make sure she's able to analyze some of the new things that are coming down the pipe, and doesn't, just jump on the bandwagon of anything. And she also said there's no really quick fixes for anything. I mean, in education, there's no quick fixes, and she said there's no silver bullets that can improve student learning. So just making sure that teachers are using those high yield instructional strategies. Also making sure that it's the teachers that teach and how they teach the information that makes the difference in things. It's not the program itself.
As far as the methods that the curriculum specialists, like in our county, every school has a curriculum specialist. Now, they might have, I think they turned them into, there's one person that has 2 jobs now as curriculum specialist and AIG together as one. But those curriculum specialists are in the schools are to keep the people at the board and the superintendent and everybody like that in charge, in the loop with things that are going on within the schools. So that's how they're keeping things current, as far as keeping the people at the board and keeping the superintendent kind of in tune to what's going on. All right. So number 5, what is the biggest challenge for your school system with curriculum and instruction?
So we talked about how certain subjects and grade levels just don't have the same amount of resources. And I kind of spoke to her about the math at our school. It seems like they have tons of resources, whereas me teaching world history, I don't feel like I have a lot of resources there. our books are from 2005, you know, where it seems like math and science get new books all the time. So that was something we kind of spoke about. And then district-wide, our district is really having a problem with AIG students, and they're not having continuous growth. So our county does offer AIG certification, and things like that, but we're not really seeing the bang for our buck with that. And, you know, PD is expensive, and they pay someone to come in and do that, and it's not really paying off for us at the moment in Catawba County.
We talked about several things. For one, I already mentioned was with the budget, how we have a lot of magnet programs, but the programs aren't fully funded. This year is our first year as Title I, as being in Title I school. So luckily, we're able to get more funding in because of that, but it's still not enough to cover the cost of us being a Montessori school. And there are 2 more Montessori schools in the county, and we're all having the same issue. We also talked about how our texts are really outdated. I believe our social studies text has, when it's talking about the second grade and third grade text, talking about who's in leadership, and they have people from way back when who, you know, the information is no longer relevant. We have a lot more that's happened with the president and all of that, and that's not in our text. We talked about how some schools have more resources than other schools. So we really focus on budget. And then, you know, she talked about, you know, in her world, how it would be a way that we can allocate the money equally amongst all schools. But of course that won't happen. So that was one of the, a major issue that she sees within the schools, within the district.
Our biggest challenge in our district, is getting new teachers in and being able to communicate the best practices, to communicate how we've been teaching things, to communicate, our instructional models to the new teachers coming in. And a lot of it is having our teachers that have been doing this a while step up and be leaders within the school itself and saying, this is what we do, this is how we do it, because it just takes a lot of time to do that. And unfortunately, a lot of teachers are very competitive in their test scores and things like that, and they don't always think about the greater good, and they'll not always take the time to help out younger teachers or struggling teachers in certain things, to be able to help them with things that are, things that, or ways we've been teaching for quite a while. So just the turnover of teachers in our county, the turnover of, just moving classrooms or moving subjects or things like that. That was one of the biggest challenges that our county struggles in instruction-wise.
So our biggest challenge is teachers don't know how to unpack the what we call our unpacking documents on their curriculum. Sometimes they'll just teach a concept just one time, where sometimes they need to teach it more than one time and build off of it. And then they like to just check off the standard. They don't really want to see the students master the standards, because they do have so many standards to teach. And then she gave me an example. We were talking, she said there was an 8th grade teacher, English language arts teacher, and the only grades that were on the student's report card were grammar quizzes, spelling tests, and vocabulary quizzes for the first whole 9 weeks. So they're not using, it looked like to me and sounded like to me that they were not going through those standards or unpacking those standards and doing more in depth. They were just getting by with some grades to give them as far as the quizzes and things like that. All right. It said we only have like 4 minutes left. If y'all are good, we'll stop recording this one, and I'll do another one, and we can finish up questions 6, 7, and 8 on the next session. If everybody's good with that, because I don't think we're gonna finish 3 questions in 3 minutes. So.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
All righty.